They much prefer the Joe Biden method, which was aesthetically do the right things while still increasing our over-reliance on fossil fuels. Good stuff. Great stuff overall. The Democratic Party's own internal assessment is that Israel was not actually violating humanitarian rights, you know? Turns out that was going on. Turns out Israel wasn't actually violating human rights, you know? Shocking. But before we get to that, let's do Trump's cabinet picks. One
in
by
Washington
one.
For the incoming Trump administration, President-elect Trump has made a flurry of additional picks for top jobs, including Secretary of State and National Security Advisor. Some names you know, some names are new additions. Weijia Zhang joins us now from West Palm Beach, Florida, with more on all of it. Weijia, good morning.
Good morning to you, Tony. Good morning to everybody. President-elect Trump is prioritizing key administration roles that really reflect his top campaign promises, securing the border and boosting the economy with energy independence. And all of the appointees have at least one thing in common: fierce loyalty to Trump. Just 1 week after his resounding victory, President-elect Donald Trump is filling out his top posts.
This is a nice crowd.
Yes, they love you.
South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem is Trump's pick to become Homeland Security Secretary. Once considered a vice presidential contender, Noem faced controversy over accounts in her memoir, but remained a strong Trump ally on the campaign trail.
Those criminals, murderers, rapists that are threatening safety in our communities, they're going to be the first ones on the list to go.
Trump is also expected to name Florida Senator Marco Rubio as his choice for Secretary of State.
We want an America that dreams big again, and for that, we need to elect Donald Trump. That's the stake in this election.
It's a long way from their rivalry for the Republican nomination in 2016.
Little Marco Rubio, he's a total disaster.
Rubio isn't the only member of Congress who could join the new Trump administration.
I have never in my lifetime seen the world falling apart like it is under Joe Biden.
Florida Congressman Michael Waltz is Trump's choice for National Security Advisor.
I fully believe in his America First agenda.
Waltz.
Law that Trump's numbing any number of Jewish conservatives who'd be equally qualified for the Israel ambassador job. I'm sure all the people like Greg Gutfeld who concerned trolled about Harris not picking Shapiro over anti-Semitism would be very upset about this. No, but that's also partially because Israel is not going to be upset about this. So, of course, that's not, if Israel is not upset about this choice, then that's going to read as not anti-Semitic, right? That's the main point here, because Mike Huckabee is perhaps the absolute worst person for this position because he is a absolute psychopath. Okay? In general, but certainly an absolute psychopath when it comes to Israel. He is one of the loudest voices that I have been chirping about endlessly in terms of conservative Christian far-right ultra-Zionism. Okay? In the United States of America, are there Jewish Zionists? Of course, okay? You got, Miriam Adelson, for example, or Sheldon Adelson. And they are massive donors to the Republican Party, okay? And then there are liberal Zionists who are also Jewish, like Haim Saban, who are massive donors to the Democratic Party. But they all pale in comparison. Sheldon's dead, exactly. But Miriam is carrying the torch. But they all pale in comparison to the rabid nature of an evangelical Protestant Christian who is an ultra-Zionist. Because their goals are not specifically tied to Jewish people or a false understanding that like Jews will only be safe in Israel, yada, yada, yada. Their goals are insane. Their goals are immaterial. They are cultists with an understanding, with a theological understanding that like the apocalypse must happen. And the only way to do that is if Israel maintains that land that is exclusively comprised of Jews, okay? It is the most insane, like you can't reason with a person like that. You know what I mean? I mean, you might not be able to reason with an ultra-Zionist Jewish person either, but at the end of the day, it comes from a different kind of social conditioning. And worst of all, and I've said this many, many times over, there are a shitload more ultra-Zionist, white nationalist Christians in the evangelical base in the United States of America that have this theological understanding, this theological justification, demanding that the rapture occurs in raw numbers, then there are Jews, Zionist and anti-Zionist alike. There are almost 10x the number of rabid evangelical Christians who believe in the apocalyptic reasons for why Israel must exist as a Jewish nation state. Then there are Jews across the board. You feel me? You smell me? You understand? And it's so funny because people just like completely forget that for one reason or another. I think on the liberal Democratic Party side, they conveniently ignore that because they want to run a defensive position for Israel by maintaining the position that like Israel is they do the pro-Israel anti-Semitism, the woke dual loyalty narratives. Okay? Where they'll be like, no, you don't understand. Like all Jews are Zionists and it's anti-Semitic if you fucking criticize Israel. Right? But that is a major reason for why there's so much motion on this. Okay?
The decorated Green Beret veteran talked to CBS News about how he views U.S. priorities less than 1 week ago.
Let's end this war in Ukraine. Let's pivot to deal with China. Let's secure our border. Let's rebuild our military.
Stephen Miller will play a big role.
Yeah, anybody that says the West Bank is called Judea and Samaria is like an insta red flag. When Bill Clinton did it, it was unacceptable. And when Mike Huckabee does it, you're like, uh-oh.
Two.
America is for Americans and Americans only.
As Trump's pick for Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy, Miller helped mastermind the so-called Muslim ban and the zero-tolerance policy that separated families at the border during the first Trump presidency. Trump has also announced Lee Zeldin as head of the Environmental Protection Agency. The former New York congressman has been criticized by environmental groups for his voting record, and Zeldin has already promised to roll back Biden regulations.
Through the EPA, we have the ability to pursue energy dominance, to be able to make the United States the artificial intelligence capital of the world.
When someone says we got to do AI shit, just know that they want to they want to create new ecological disasters that you had not even comprehended before, okay? Every time you see one of those ugly ass AI art, all that AI art that you see that's ugly as fuck, they're basically boiling the fucking coral reefs to be able to get that, okay? Yeah. Yes, we started a new denaturalization project under Trump in 2025, expected to be turbocharged. Justice Department establishes an office to denaturalize immigrants. That's what Stephen Miller said in 2023. Oh, do you think the heavy use of AI over the last few years had a hand in the hurricane season insanity? I mean, certainly. Yeah, even oil companies are saying Trump is too extreme on climate change. This happened literally under the Trump administration as well. Oil giant ExxonMobil opposes President-elect Donald Trump's plans to pull out of the Paris Climate Agreement, a company spokesperson told to a CNN statement. A second U.S. exit from the Paris Climate Agreement will have profound implications for the United States' efforts to reduce its own emissions and for international efforts to combat climate change, an ExxonMobil spokesperson told in a statement. We advocate for policy that accounts for security, affordability, reliability, and environmental stewardship, not drastic changes that could hinder the progress being made today. I mean, it's performative for the most part. They much prefer the Joe Biden method, which was, aesthetically do the right things while still, increasing our over-reliance on fossil fuels. Good stuff. Great stuff. Overall. Wonderful.
To bring back American jobs to the auto industry and so much more.
Trump is heading to the White House tomorrow to meet with President Biden. It is a post-election tradition that did not happen back in 2020 because Trump did not invite Biden over when their roles were reversed. Tony?
We should thank you very much. Washington correspondent Major Garrett. Major, good morning to you. These picks matter because of the ideas people will bring to the White House, also because they're going to be overseeing huge budgets of American taxpayer dollars. But the order of these announcements tell us something, too, about Donald Trump. What does it say to you?
Two words, speed and sequence. Things are moving very rapidly. I would expect more announcements today, possibly Treasury Secretary, possibly Energy Secretary. So there's tremendous speed. There are PowerPoints presented to President-elect Trump. He's like, I don't need PowerPoints. I know what I want to do. Let's just move, move, move. Why do I say the word sequence? Because it's important as we are, as a nation, digesting these moves that, for example, Tom Homan was named the border czar before the
Yeah, I mean, he was, you know, Obama's border guy, too, for the record. Expect liberals to get really mad about Tom Homan when, you know, and you should get mad, but just remind yourselves, maybe quietly, that he worked under Obama as well.
There was an announcement about DHS Secretary or even Stephen Miller going in the White House as Deputy Chief of Staff of Policy. Why? Because Tom Homan, everyone knows in the Trump inner circle, will have direct access to the president, and that sequencing, naming him first, makes him more important on border matters than the DHS Secretary-to-be, Christine Ohm, or even Stephen Miller. Same thing I would say in the sequencing of announcing Elise Stefanik as the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations before naming Marco Rubio as Secretary of State. That's a very odd sequencing. Usually you do it the other way around. UN ambassador, much less important than the Secretary of State. Not for Trump. He wants Elise Stefanik, a staunch defender of Israel in the UN, to not only talk about America First diplomacy, but also have Israel's back. Not just Israel generally, but the Netanyahu government. So speed and sequence really matter.
I never paid attention to sequencing.
Thoughts on Stephen Miller? He is a very prominent neo-Nazi whose entire family despises him. He has no family, he has no friends, he has nothing in his life. The only thing he has is this resilient white supremacist, white nativist attitude and an agenda that he wants to follow through on that purges this nation of anyone that is like not white enough.
Sequencing before.
He has
now
a wife.
I will. Major, what does it tell you, the people that he's chosen so far? What does it tell you about the cabinet he wants to build and the administration he intends to run?
Does he still have a
So
wife?
I covered the Trump transition in 2016 going into 2017. And back then, there were two great questions. What do I do, and how should I best do it? Trump didn't have answers to that.
He's had a wife since 2020. And 3 children now.
He's never been president before. He knows the answers now. What he wants is loyalty, and he wants direct reporting. He knows the cabinet secretaries have to go through a Senate confirmation process. What he wants, though, is czars or people who have direct report power to him, who he can basically create a straight line of accountability that doesn't run necessarily through that agency's bureaucracy. It goes straight to him. You're going to see that shape many of his appointments. Obviously, there will be cabinet secretaries, but there will be others who have direct report power to him, and he will try to use that to go around the bureaucracy when and where he can.
All right, Major, we've seen Trump talk about bypassing Senate confirmations with recess appointments. Between that and naming the czars in positions, what does he accomplish with that?
So it's worth pointing out, and I know this is ancient history, but during the Obama administration, congressional Republicans accused then-President Obama, who wanted to use recess powers to fill held positions, of using brazen, unconstitutional powers to do that. Now they're basically saying Trump should do that right away. So there's a disconnect there. Using recess appointments is something that the Supreme Court has basically restrained in a clash during the Obama administration. So there's Supreme Court precedent that will limit President Trump's powers to use recess appointment. But what he's trying to signal...
Oh, they'll definitely do that. This Supreme Court will definitely follow suit and act accordingly and maintain their... this Supreme Court will certainly maintain their original position. Yeah, famously, they always do that.
To the Senate Republicans and to the nation broadly is he's going to move as rapidly as he can, and if he's challenged in court, he may be set back, but he's going to move as aggressively as he can, and he wants Senate Republicans to get on board and help him as much as they're willing to.
All right, Major, he's moving very quickly. Thank you so much.
Hey, if you like this video, please subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss out on any future videos.